All right. So I usually start these by asking, how many of my typing sessions have you seen before?
Maybe 10 or 11.
Okay.
I remember the one Indian kid who probably seemed like 16, 15 or 16 at the time, and you typed him as an INTJ, I believe. And I was perplexed at how one individual could look so unenthused about literally everything. And so I was like, how in the world is he not reacting to anything?
I guess that's epipolar.
Well,
Uh,
yeah.
okay, cool. So, and how long have you known about personality type?
So functions or the actual like concept?
Let's let's go with functions.
Functions probably 2 or 3 years.
Okay, cool. So you're pretty knowledgeable about type and stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
I've I've done the Sakharnova test, the Michael Callows test before, but I can't trust myself to be unbiased with those things. And I know how they work, so I can't trust
Right. You can
myself to
game
give
them too
honest
much.
answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, can you give me a sequence of insignificant events making up your day yesterday? So we can start with some SI stuff.
Okay. So I made so I work at a fragrance shop as a salesman, and I was bored, so then I made like this airplane out of like the tester strips that you'd use to like spray the fragrance on, so people could like differentiate the notes on it. And so I made this like plane with like a little fuselage and everything on it, and I it actually flew pretty well. But there was like an overdraft, like from our air conditioning unit, so it didn't fly as well underneath that, but it did fly pretty well. And I drank a Mountain Dew yesterday, and my lunch was an Auntie Anne's like pretzel bites thing, along with like a bag of popcorn. So it
Oh,
wasn't the most nutritious meal, but it was what I had since I didn't wasn't able to go on break yesterday for that.
how long have you been awake for today?
I got up at 8. I was hanging out. So I yesterday I was at work, then I got off work and I went to go pick up my dress shoes at my friend's house. Then I came back to my own house, ate dinner, then went back over there until 11:30 or 12. And then I came back here, went to sleep. I wasn't sure what time exactly. Was it like for our I thought it was like 10 a.m. our time for the typing session, but it's because like Eastern Standard Time. But then I was like, oh, it's actually 1 to 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So then
Okay.
I
Yeah.
went for that.
Okay. Cool. And in fact I didn't check my email after putting it on the calendar last night. So I knew coming in this morning that we might end up with a time zone disagreement because you just said 10 o'clock. You didn't say which time zone. So, okay, well, that's
Yeah, it
cool.
was.
I'm glad you're
Sorry
still
about that.
available. Oh, that's fine. Obviously, if you're here at 10 o'clock my time. I wouldn't have ever known there was any confusion if you not alerted me. Okay, cool. So, all right. Can you tell me what emotion you're feeling right now?
What do you mean by that? As far as like, because there's internal sensory, and then there's like SI, and then there's internal feelings and judgments like FI. I'm assuming you're asking more of an FI question.
Yeah. Otherwise, if
And
I was asking about the essay, I'd say how are you physically feeling right now? Any cricks in the neck? Any aches and pains? But I'm asking about your emotions. What's your emotional state right now?
pretty neutral, probably.
Okay. Did you
What?
pick this?
How would you?
Did you pick
How would
this?
you? Hmm,
Did you pick
sorry.
this spot before we started? Because of either the chair, the background, or did you not put any thought into it at all? Can you walk me through your thinking about that before we started this?
Yeah, so I chose this area because I knew that I would not be disturbed during our conversation. I'm actually in my room, and this is my favorite wingback chair. It's like from IKEA. It's pretty cool, and I set up the lighting right there so that there would be as few shadows as possible. Now, I'm not an expert by any means, but I did select this chair, and I did place this chair here next to my bookshelf. And because I mean, I know it does look academic, and I don't think it's in the same way where it's like, I know how you've discussed things about ESFPs and how they're like, oh, what's the best way to like sound smart to impress these people? I mean, I like to read, but it's not like as, I don't think, superficial.
Well, I'm
As
very
like
curious about those books. I'm curious about two of them in particular: Ultimate Flexibility and Supple Leopard.
Yes, by Dr. Kelly Starrett. Those two are, so I worked, so a little bit about me, backstory, SI, here we go, is I went to a parkour gym, so like Ninja Warrior stuff. I did that for about 4 years. And my coach, instructor, he's actually a law student. No, he graduated law school, but he was also really much into like anatomy. I think he did that as like his side thing. And so I got those two books from when that gym closed down. But that's really just about how to basically like limber up, I guess, because there's something called fascial release therapy. And that's basically like, so tendons can get like stuck and glued together, and like using massage techniques like lacrosse balls or other things like that, foam rollers, you can loosen up the tendons in order to mobilize yourself a lot better and to like correct any movement. What's it called? I'm trying to explain this. Any
Limitations?
or yeah, limitations like to like a full movement, so like a squat, like being able to work on the flexibility and the joint mobility of your ankles and your Achilles, along with the knees and the hips, and working all those muscles so that you can actually perform a full squat properly so you don't injure yourself, basically. That's like how that works.
I see. I always enjoyed watching Ninja Warrior. A long time ago, I started watching it. Back when it was only a Japanese thing, you know.
Yeah.
Did you ever attempt the various challenges that are part of that? Things like that thing where you have to jump it up a level and then jump it up a level.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of challenges. I'm more in, so like right now, sorry, there's a lot that goes into this backstory. So I trained in parkour, which is more like a free form Ninja
I know
Warrior.
what parkour is.
Okay. And then I got a job at a Ninja Warrior gym close to where I live. And that's when I taught Ninja Warrior, because I originally went in to teach parkour. But then they were like, hey, we need Ninja Warrior teachers. So I was like, okay, sure, just show me what to do. And then I did that. But it wasn't, because there's so many different challenges that you could do. But I was more wanting to get the baseline physical discipline down in order to like build strength through things like progressive calisthenics, so that if I came across a challenge, then I could attempt it. So it's like I have the baseline like physical capacity to do like most sports. Like that was my goal. And so then if something presented itself, like, hey, sure, I'll give it a shot. Like, why not? And just attempt to do those things. So there's specific challenges like dynos and muscle ups, and if you wanted to really get into more of the gymnastics side of things, like giants, where you like swing around the bar like gymnastics people do, or different stuff like that. There's like a whole array of different things. But
did you ever do gymnastics?
For a little bit. Honestly, gymnasts and CrossFitters are really good at hurting themselves. So I did do gymnastics and it was fine, but the thing is, like with CrossFit, in order to be good at CrossFit, you need to be good at CrossFit, if that makes sense.
I don't even
The
know what
barrier to
CrossFit
entry,
is.
it's like, you know, uh, it's like functional exercise, like where you get like box jumps and what's that, like clutch and then like a overhead press of like bars with 45 pounds. And then there's like kip pull-ups that aren't really pull-ups because you're using your legs to help transfer the momentum of your force going upwards. So you're not actually like using your arms, you're mostly using like a repetitive body motion cycle. It's
Did you ever do cheer?
No, I didn't. I did not. I was mostly homeschooled for most of my life. So
You know, competitive cheer, they do a lot of gymnastics-y kind of stuff, except you get some people throw somebody up into the air rather
yeah,
than them jumping by themselves up into the air.
yeah. I've met a few people that do like tumbling, but I actually don't have a lot of friends who do cheer specifically.
My ex-wife used to be a cheerleading coach, which is why I know about it.
Oh, okay.
Um, and her brother had his own cheerleading gym for a while, so I'm sort of strangely familiar with the world of competitive cheer.
Oh, okay. You got
uh,
some insider knowledge.
yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Cool. So can you tell me about your job and
Mm,
how you like it? Your job selling smell.
the smell,
You're a
the
smell
big
seller.
smell.
You're a
Yeah,
smell
I'm a
seller. Tell me about this
smeller.
interesting job that you have.
Okay, so yeah, this year. So I just graduated high school last year, and it's been like kind of an unintentional gap year. So I'm gonna intend to go to local community college and do ROTC for the military. Unless we move, then I'll have to reconsider my options and then go from there. But I got this job mostly to fill the time, to make some extra cash, and to, just have a job because I didn't want to be one of those Gen Zers who's like, or like somebody would be like, oh, these kids aren't working today. They don't know what hard work is. And I was like, well, I don't want to be like that, like a part of the group that's being targeted in that manner. And so I'm like, I'm going to get a job, make some more cash, and like, hopefully I'll enjoy it.
You don't want to be
And
like
so,
Eric. I don't blame
and,
you. It's tough being useless. You know, it's ontologically
no,
weighty. No, it ontologically weighs on you after a period of time when you just have too much time to fuck around. Anyway, go ahead.
no. Okay. So I got the job. So basically how it worked was my mom was like, so why don't you just like, set the goal. I self-typed her as an INTJ. And she said, why don't you just set the goal of like, getting one resume in somewhere by the end of the week? Because I was trying to figure it out, like where to go. And I was like, I'm going to get a job by the end of the week. I didn't tell her that, but I was like, okay. But I didn't I was like, I'm going to try and find a job by the end of the week. And I was very interested. I have been for a long time in fragrances, personal care, sports, athletics, things like that. And I was like, why not try and get a job at a fragrance shop? So then I went there. I basically went to our local outlet mall and I walked in, talked about fragrances for an hour. And the regional manager was there. Like, he only comes in every 2 months, but the same day that I went there, he was there. And I talked to him and I was like, and Brenda, probably shouldn't have said her name. Sorry about that.
You just said her
Yeah,
first
she
name.
was.
No one's gonna know.
Okay, so
a
Brenda.
lot of Brendas in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So Brenda, she mentioned something about, oh yeah, we had these like two guys that worked here at one point and they were really good. And I was like, oh, two guys that worked here at some point earlier and then they just left for college. Interesting. And then I basically was like, so a little bit down the line of the conversation, like, so I heard, some people left. Are you looking for employment? And Joe, the regional manager, he was like, yes, I'll go get you the papers if you're interested. I was like, sure. And then I got the interview that day, and then background check, and then I got the job, basically. So,
Well, that worked out very well for you.
yeah.
And I bet you're doing a good job and are earning the positive performance reviews of your managers and stuff. Is that correct?
I'd say so. I mean, I knew, so there's a book that my mom, she's so, I love it so much how she has so much information about, like, if you think this is a fair amount of books, and I have another shelf over there, my mom has walls of business information. She used to be a stockbroker. She taught programming, and now she's working as a programmer herself, but she also homeschooled us, and she went to college to become a country singer at first, which is like an ESFP, aspirational inferior SE from my perspective. And I'm just like, she has so much knowledge in like these books and stuff that I've just like hoarded myself and put on the shelves that I'll have to repurchase all these books later just so I have them. But where was I going with that? Oh yeah, performance review. So yeah, there's a book that she gave me where it's like, oh yeah, if you ask your team to give themselves a self-rating, they'll usually rate lower than what you actually expect them to do. Because, usually people go from the framework of humility. And I knew that my regional manager was doing that. And so it was really interesting for me, like when he came in for our performance reviews, because he used the exact same technique. He's like, what would you rate yourself? And I'm like, I think I did like a 7.5 probably. And he's like, oh, I think you actually did like a 9.8 on that one, on like showing me the niche fragrances. You did a really good job. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. But internally, I knew that that's what he was doing. But I just thought it was interesting to see like an actual application from my superior of doing something like that. And I just found it amusing. But it was, yeah, to answer your question.
I think it's interesting that you played along with it.
It was fun.
I would have responded by saying, well, do you want me to compare myself against the ideal or alternatives?
The alternatives of like my other peers, or
right, but see, that's not a very team playery question to ask, right?
Well, he did it with everybody, and it was more of a self-evaluation and positive feedback in order to do better. That's my opinion.
Right. No, I'm sure you do a fantastic job. I practically want to buy some smells from you already.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't even like smells. Except, I tell you this, I do like the smell of this stuff that Rachel burns in here. I guess it's sage probably or something. But
okay.
She sometimes burns it in here to purify.
Okay. I mean, if you're looking for something pretty fresh that does have incense in it, like let's say like just a standard casual scent that you could wear throughout the year, I'd recommend Versace Dylan Blue. That's a great one, honestly.
I actually have a smell. It's Drakkar Noir. It's from high school.
Nice.
Yeah, it's the one I had in high school, so it's purely an SI thing for me. Back in high school, I wore Drakkar Noir, and then like about a year and a half ago, I said, I want to get that again.
Nice. I really like Drakkar. So for me in like my age range, I wouldn't be able to pull it off, but I'll spray it whenever I'm in the shop, like on my wrist, and then just like, because I'm interested in barbershop scents too, like the cinnamon. I think it does have sage and patchouli and cedar, all these different things.
Is that called a barbershop scent?
It's closer than most new fragrances. Like I'm a 1 million Paco Rabanne 1 million parfum. That's like my signature right now, which is like a leather iris flower scent. But there's not that many that are hip with the kids that are more classic clean barbershop, like lavender, patchouli, sage, the cedar that's in your Drakkar. That would be more inclined to being like a barber shops and
Well, you know,
airports.
I also remembered the perfume that I liked the smell of for girls back in high school, and I bought a bottle of that for Rachel. It's called Chloe.
Oh, Chloe, yes, that's good. So it's like the
It was expensive.
yeah.
I was surprised by how expensive it was.
Was it like the small square bottle too? Just like the tiny one, or is it the big one?
You know, we got her the big one, the most. You can get it like more concentrated or less concentrated. We got the
Yeah,
more
yeah.
concentrated one. So,
The Eau de Parfum, the Parfum version.
yeah, I don't remember what they were called, but yeah,
Okay.
we. I remember when I got it, I was like, well, if we're gonna spend a bunch of money on this, might as well get the most concentrated one.
And that's exactly so. My dad is an ENFP, and I asked him for 1 million this past Christmas, and I asked for like the 1.7 fluid ounce EDT Eau de Toilette, which is like standard concentration. My dad went to Sephora, and he bought the biggest size of the highest concentration of 1 million that he could, and that was a Parkland version. And I was like, oh, thanks,
So
because
then,
I was expecting like the small one just to
so do you water
try.
it down if it's the more concentrated one, or you just put less on?
Yeah, you don't need that many sprays, and it lasts longer on the skin.
I see.
So it's usually better value for the money. I know I'm
Okay,
using lots of air quotes, but
that's fine. Um, all right. So let's say you were to break down the process of choosing the right perfume for you, or cologne, whatever you want to call it. Um,
mm,
how many steps would the optimal number of steps to break that into be?
well, there is so there's different factors to it. There's skin compatibility and how much you like the fragrance. So skin compatibility is like something might smell amazing on someone, and then you spray it on your skin and it smells not the same or even bad. There's that, and then you actually have to like the fragrance when you smell it. So it's like you can spray it. So like let's say I usually spray it on tester strips. So when I my process is like I will so no shock to anybody, I get spiff money, basically like an extra $1 or $2 on our niche if I sell it. So I usually show the niche first. And then if they don't like any of the niche, then I'll start to go into the like more brand name stuff that people will. So like let's say somebody liked vanilla and amber, something like that. And I'm like, okay, but we didn't have any niche offerings that hit the spot for them. Then I'll show them our branded, and then they find something like that. Then I'll show them something that has vanilla and amber in it, maybe sandalwood too, because like creamy woods are usually like what you find in those fragrances. And then I'll show them to them. And then usually I won't, I'm figuring out now that I don't want to give everybody all of the options because most of the people don't really know what they want and they don't really know the stuff that's in the fragrances, and too many options is just going to overwhelm them and they just would want to leave. So I'm slowly like dialing it back to like only showing them the most pertinent fragrances that I can
Does,
match
I have
their
I have a
interests.
question. How many steps was that?
Well, probably three, but I elaborated on them. So they
Okay.
like some, they tell me what they like if possible, and then I show them things that cater to their liking. And then if they like it, then they buy it.
Do you ever smell people to see what their natural stink is, so that then you find a compatible smell with that?
No, it's more of a it's more of like it usually comes first that they will enjoy the fragrance, and then I can say like they sometimes they'll just buy it. Like I won't even mention like skin compatibility, but then they'll be like, "Can I spray it on my wrist?" I'm like, "Sure, spray it on the wrist." And they're like, we wait for a second for it to dry down. I'm like, okay, yeah, this smells pretty good. And then if they get to that point, then, say like, hey, would you like to get this one? And they're like, sure, or maybe not. It really depends.
So you're
But
like a perfume sommelier.
what is a sommelier?
It's one of those guys who comes around and says the perfect wine for this meal you're having is this wine.
Eh, like a Cabernet or something. No. I mean, that's technically my job. Yeah, it's I am pairing
So
the
how did you get into this? Like, how did you get into smell?
well around the age of 13 or 14. I started being like I started thinking to myself, my personal appearance is very important for making a good impression and for impressing other people. And so then I started like looking on YouTube for fashion stuff, and I didn't implement a lot of the fashion ideas until I was like out of high school because I was really stressed doing like in high school, like making sure I did my schoolwork, and I was doing a career center thing for engineering. And I dropped out of the engineering because it wasn't really for me, but I did get pretty far in it. I just didn't really enjoy it that much. And then I was doing Taekwondo at the same time. So I didn't really implement a lot of the fashion things that I could have until after I got out. But the scent thing was really like one of the first things. So I like started with, making sure that my hair was taken care of. And then I added in the fragrance. I started getting into fragrances, and then the general fashion stuff came after that. That was
Okay.
that's kind of how that
So
escalated.
did you take time to pick this particular shirt you're wearing before this session?
I well, yes. I mean, all my clothes are like hung up and lined in my closet, so I can like pick out a shirt, pick out the pants, and then set them aside, see if it works. But yeah, I mean, it's a shirt that I wear that looks nice, and it doesn't provide too high of a contrast.
When you got
So
it, were you aware of the fact that the flamingos on it kind of match your skin tone?
well, no, not at the time, but the yes, the flamingos. Well, it is a lighter shade of
It's
like it is a
salmon.
lighter color.
It's kind of orangey salmon.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's got like salmon, and then it goes to like more of a light cherry red. I think, from what I can see on here, my video might not pick it up as well,
Mm.
but
Okay, so when you got that shirt, why did you get that shirt? Is it because you thought it was proper amount of understatedness with something else, or some other reason?
no, that's the first one
Okay.
because I wanted casual dress wear that was intriguing enough to for somebody who also was like, okay, this guy's wearing something that was intentional, but it doesn't look intentional for people who aren't looking for intentionality in their dress, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. That's really hyper, hyper aware of your clothes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I didn't put any time at all into picking out this shirt this morning. You're
It's
lucky I
okay.
even have a shirt on.
Yeah. Well, my closest friend is an ENTP too. I self-typed him. So it's not like news to me. He's great.
Okay, well let me pause for a second here so I can refill my cup of coffee. I'll be right back.
Okay, sounds good.
I have to microwave it, so it's gonna be a minute. 1 minute.
Okay, sound good.
Okay. So
Got some.
let me ask about your sleeping habits. Can you tell me how many
Okay.
hours of sleep you need a night and what your going to sleep time is like?
Mm.
If you have any rituals for getting into bed and making yourself go to sleep.
So, sleep time. Usually, I mean, 7 hours is usually a good amount of time. It depends on really how active I am. And if, because sometimes I'll be like, I usually try to get, okay, just emphasis on I usually try to get to bed at 9:30. That was before my job. But since I mainly do closings because nobody else wants to do closings, uh, I get home at around 10:30, and I usually get to bed at around 11:30. And if I could get up at 5 o'clock, I would. So then I can like walk my dog and do my workout stuff and reading and whatever stuff before work. I would. But if I did that with only 5 or 6 hours of sleep, I would like run myself into the ground. And I have done that a few times in the past. But now I'm like, okay, I need to like, even if it doesn't reach the goal of waking up at 5 and having this perfect schedule that I've laid out, then that's okay because I can always adjust the way it was.
Okay, you cut out a little bit there, but I got the gist of it. Um,
Okay.
how about the going to sleep part? When you get into bed, do you yawn and stretch? We're having some connectivity issues here. Let me refresh. Let's see. I don't know if it's me or not, but
Yeah.
okay. Can you refresh as well?
Yeah. Yeah. Like exit and rejoin.
Yeah, I just refreshed the tab is what I did.
Oh, did it work?
Yeah, well, you're good. We're good now. You're coming in low resolution on the video, but I'm not sure if it's on my end or your end, but it's fine. So, can you tell me about yawning and stretching when you get into bed?
Well, as far as like, so I wear contacts, and like when I take them out at the end of the day, there's usually like a contact dent. Oh no, it went off again.
Okay, yeah. Can you refresh your tab? Can you
Yeah,
refresh?
yeah, got it.
Okay, that
I,
seems a little bit better. Hopefully, can you see me? Okay.
yeah, yeah.
All right, cool.
All right.
So, does it take you a long time to fall asleep? I don't know what's going on
Here, I'm
here.
going to. Did it work?
Yeah, well, I can see you and hear you, but it's still pretty choppy on the internet. Seems a little bit better, maybe. Um, okay. Well, So we're still trying to figure out if it takes you a long time to fall asleep, or if that is not a problem for you. You fall asleep right away.
Yeah, it's more of here. Sorry, I connected to my mobile hotspot to see if that was better.
It seems like it's better. You're coming in more high resolution.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So going to sleep.
Yeah. It's I mean, I will go to sleep. As I was saying, there's usually like a contact divot, like where I have like had my contacts in, and so I'll usually just like try to massage my eyes a bit, and then I'll just roll over and go to sleep, basically.
Do you need it to be
But
dark
as
and
far as
quiet?
like if it's if I was tired enough, no. But usually, yeah, most of the time my house is pretty quiet. It's not like there's never usually a giant ruckus. So I don't have a lot of experience sleeping in anything other than what I have slept through or in. But my brother says that I'm a pretty heavy sleeper. So
Okay. And how are you about following through on things you plan to do? Are you a procrastinator? Do you check things off of lists? Is it
yeah,
satisfying to get things
I
done?
so yeah, I have a planner. Thanks to my mom, she's like, here's a planner. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, and I'll write things down, and I will check them off usually. But sometimes it's not like I'll usually like write out my plan in the morning, and then I'll check back in at lunch. Sometimes it's not like a consistent. It's not like really regimented as far as like how I check my to-do list, but I do things every day as far as like clean the room, clean the car, do the stuff at work, come back home. But it's never like in a hyper vigilant, because like whenever I would suspect that I would have extrovert thinking, everybody makes it, because like if you pair it with the Enneagram, it's like everybody you see is like a TE Dom is like, oh, it's an 8, like an Enneagram 8, but like there's so many other combinations of different things that could go into being a TE Dom, and I never really related to like the hyper bossy to-do list junkie.
Oh,
I mean,
you're
other
you're
people might
not a
say that
TE
I'm like
Dom.
that.
You are not a TE Dom. You can just throw
Okay,
that right
nice.
out the window. These are not really
Okay.
TE questions I'm asking you. This is more SI stuff than really is TE. But okay, so let me ask you some TI questions. Actually,
Okay.
let me ask you this first. On your way back from work, do you
Mhm.
spend time reliving conversations you had during the day at work, like maybe revisiting something that happened and saying to yourself, either going over that conversation in your head, or maybe thinking, "I wish I had said this instead," or something like that?
I mean, to if it's like really bad, probably, but I'm usually just listening to music or an audiobook on the way home.
Okay.
So
And
it's never like it's never a disconnection with there is disconnection sometimes, but that's through the like if I'm very tired, then I will sometimes be a little bit slower, but it's never a it's never an apparent rumination. That's the right word. It's never an apparent rumination to me, like whenever people are describing introverted sensing. I don't
okay,
see that in myself.
okay. Um, do you have to work later today?
No, this is my day off, so
Okay.
I can just chill out today.
If you did have to work later today, would you be sort of waiting for work until then?
Yeah, so I would probably so like in my planner I would have like work from let's say 3 to 9, whatever. And then I'd be like, okay, what can I do in this time that I'm not at work? And so then I'll write in the things that I'd like to do in the time that I'm not doing work, and then I'll make sure that I get to work on time as best as I can, because sometimes I'm usually late, but it's not sometimes I'm usually late, it's just sometimes I am late.
Mm-hmm.
But that's usually because I need to make my lunch so that I didn't starve during my work day. So sometimes that happens, but
Okay. And how are you feeling physically right now? Any aches and pains?
no.
Okay.
I mean, I generally attribute that to taking care of myself and not necessarily like an absence of personal care. So, but no, I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Okay, cool. Um, all right. So if some birds make noise, and all things that make noise, like cheese, is it necessarily the case that some birds like cheese?
So cheese would make noise, right?
No. I- if some birds make noise, and all things that make noise, like cheese, is it necessarily the case that some birds like cheese?
So all things that make noise like cheese.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Um, who is my mother's husband in relationship to me?
Your mother's. So that'd be your grandfather?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And given that today is Thursday,
Hmm.
what is tomorrow's yesterday?
Okay. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Saturday.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Um, let's try some extroverted intuition stuff. Uh, so I've got a new invention. It's a detecting machine that you wear on your shoulder that smells people around you, and if it smells them at a certain velocity of smell, then
Okay.
it squirts them with a fragrance that's
Okay.
specially picked according to their smell.
Okay. So it's like a fragrance turret with different cartridges for the detected scent profiles of different people, natural scent
That's
profiles.
exactly right. Yes.
Okay.
So can you name this invention for me? Come up with some snappy marketing names.
Oh, let's see. Well, I mean, the first one that I thought of was "Bo Be Gone."
Okay,
So,
it's a good one.
and
Give me some other
let's see.
possibilities.
Let's see. Anti-scent sucker, and I have to use my NE training from my friend. Let's see it. Okay. And there's so fragrance turret fragrance, machine gun fragrance gun, automated fragrance turret,
Okay.
AFT, automated fragrance defense turret,
Okay.
AFDT.
Okay. That's very one step at a time, NE. Uh, okay.
Listen, I'm doing my best. Okay.
Uh, let's say, let's try a couple of inky pinkies. You're familiar with this?
Okay. No.
Okay, so here's an example. I tell you the clue is hilltop waterspout, that it's an inky pinky. The answer is mountain fountain. The answer always rhymes.
Hilltop. Okay, hilltop water fountain, and then
Waterspout. Hilltop
water
waterspout would
spout.
be the clue, and then inky pinky tells you it's two syllables each word in the answer, and then the answer is mountain fountain. So here's another example. Roadway flesh is the clue. It's an ink pink, which means there's one syllable in each word of the answer, and the answer is street meat.
Oh, okay. I was thinking it would be like roadkill, but
No, the answer always rhymes,
oh,
and the clue never
okay,
does. So the clue is
okay,
basically synonyms of the answer.
okay.
All right, so here's one. It's a bunny addiction, and it's an inky pinky.
Bunny addiction. Bunny addiction.
It's a rabbit habit.
Oh, okay. All right.
Can you try to make up one for me now?
All right. Let's see. Soup scoop.
That's the answer.
Well, no, it's gonna be like a bread bowl.
So you'd have to say bread bowl is the clue. The answer would be soup scoop because the answer rhymes.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I'm trying.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, so let me ask you. Let's play World Mic Power. So you've got the mic for 30 seconds. Whatever you say gets broadcast into everybody's ears, translated into every language, and everybody hears your advice for the world. What do you say?
Let's see. Respect your parents and learn from them. Be disciplined. Seek truth, knowledge, and wisdom. And
Boy, that is the privilege of the well raised. Not
yeah,
everybody
well,
has good parents.
yeah.
Some people have shitty parents.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about like, what's the word of like self con like your consciousness just like being like, oh, I'm a separate being from everybody else, and I can either accept or reject the things that are appearing in front of me, and I can sift through the things that I have seen to be substantially evident as being true or evident as being false, and you can just like sit there and not just take everything as like blunt force truth just all the time. You know what I'm saying? Or
Hmm.
falsity based on majority public opinion.
Blunt force truth. Can you give me some examples of some blunt force truths?
Yeah, it's like when people are like, "Oh, what's it called? The environment, global warming is like we should all be concerned about global warming," and yet at the same time, everybody's like, "Oh, gas prices are too high," and it's like, well, the people who are concerned about global warming are making the gas prices really high because they want to, because like the whole transition of like to clean energy, like the whole like transitioning the economy to clean energy of like solar panels and things, it's taking a lot longer than lots of people want. So then it's like, okay, let's just cut it off right now. And even though it'll hurt right now, it'll be good in the future. But most of the people are like, we don't want higher gas prices because you'd have to recycle so many cars, or maybe like put so many new engines that use electricity into so many new cars, and that would take a lot of time and a lot more money than if we just kept gas prices here and we just did a slow progressive transition into something that was
Well, look,
better,
the
I
thing
guess.
is this: there's only one thing that really makes sense for government to subsidize and make cheaper, and that's energy, because all other productive activity is predicated on the usage of energy. The idea that we should reduce our energy consumption as a means of dealing with climate change is absolutely fucking insane. We should adapt to climate change and try to sequester existing carbon rather than trying to limit output. It's like a long time ago, people had a problem. They gathered into cities, but they all pooped and peed all the time, and they didn't know what to do with all their sewage and stuff. The solution was not to get people to poop and pee less,
Yeah.
right? It's never the solution. That is never the
Yeah.
solution. The solution is always figure out how to deal with the poop and pee better.
Yeah. Because you can't just stop that process.
Right.
You have
It's
to
ridiculous.
be able to use it to the best of its ability while not making yourself implode or explode.
And increased energy costs directly impact everybody's bottom line in a one-to-one
Yeah.
ratio in a way that other kinds of costs don't. So,
Yeah.
yeah, people who fixate on limiting emissions to deal with climate change are stupid motherfuckers.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we've got that cleared out of the way, that's some blunt force truth for you.
Yeah.
That's the kind of that's what I expect you to say is blunt force truth is when me saying to somebody, "You're a stupid motherfucker."
Well, no, I mean, when I was talking about blunt force truth, was just like it was like rhetoric and ideology crammed down your throat without any without any processing of like what's actually being trying to be shoved down
Right.
the throat of whoever.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. And people don't even know what the curve is for carbon emissions anyway. It's like everyone's
Yeah.
assuming it's just a straight line, or that it goes like this, like a greenhouse effect. But there's at no point been established what kind of curve it actually is. It could go like this. It could be
Yeah.
diminishing returns. And nobody's established that. Nobody seems to care because they're all stupid motherfuckers. Anyway.
Yeah. And all the material that was used for that like constitutes gas was living material at one point. So releasing it into the atmosphere just is it's the same amount of energy, it's just contained in the same space, just in a different form.
That's true. Well, I mean, yeah. Okay, cool. So, all right. You're kind of tricky. I think I know what you are, but let me see if I can nail this down some more. So,
Okay.
let's say I come to you and tell you that I've got a problem. My doorknob has come loose. What should I do?
Fix the doorknob. I mean, it really like if you taking like the literal of what you're saying came to me and asked for if your doorknob is loose,
Okay,
the
but how do I
attachment
fix
piece?
it?
Well, did you go look at what the issue was and then
I
try
mean,
to
I
diagnose?
looked at it, but I was unable to figure anything out.
Okay, so then I would be wanting to go and check it out myself, and if not, then I guess you could look up the parts or like the instruction manual for the piece, and if it was physically broken, like somebody was like just broke it somehow, then you just go and order a new one and then replace it.
Okay.
That's
So if you had a broken doorknob in your room, is that what you would do?
Yeah.
You just solve it yourself? You wouldn't ask somebody else in the family for help?
Well, if I didn't know how to do it, then I would go ask. But if I had the means to fix it myself, then I would do that.
Okay. So let's say you looked at it and you realized that um, one of the screws had become stripped.
Hmm.
So
So you'd go
go ahead.
take, so like stripped as in like you couldn't unscrew it?
No, stripped like it no longer had the little curvy parts on
Threads.
it, so
Yeah.
it would just pull out. Even if you pushed it back in all the way, it wouldn't. It's like wouldn't hang on anything, you know.
Okay. So I'd go out to my garage in my dad's little like screw bin, and then I'd go try and find one that matches it, bring it back, and screw it back in.
Would you get one that's a little bit bigger?
Threads wise or length?
Either way.
I mean, I don't know why you would get a bigger one if you can find something that is as close to the original as possible, unless there was something inherently wrong with the original design.
Because usually what's really
Then,
stripped is the hole, not the screw.
oh, okay.
That's what usually the
So,
problem when something's stripped. Is that you've stripped out
okay.
all the
So,
wood around the size of screw, you know?
mhm. So then if that was the case, then you need to find something with a larger diameter of threading.
Mm-hmm. That's some pretty good problem solving on your part there. Um,
Thank you. I did take engineering for 2 years, so,
okay, cool. Uh, what gives you a lot of satisfaction?
not much, actually. Well, let's see. What do you define satisfaction?
Moments of triumph, baby. Yes, I killed it.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
happy. I'm stoked. I'm happy with myself instead of bad at myself.
Hmm. That would probably be when I sell 5 bottles of niche in a single sale. So my UPT units per transaction and my spiff amount is really high. It's like the cash I get on top of the hourly wage.
Mm,
It's like my commission.
mm,
And as far as like what's like satisfactory, one thing that I absolutely love is like waking up on like a Saturday morning and making it like a black cup of coffee. And like my dad might be making like hickory smoked bacon. And then you take like the crisp bacon and the cup of joe and you just like take a bite of the bacon and take a sip of the coffee. That's really nice. But
yeah, that is nice.
that's
You like black
satisfaction.
coffee?
Yeah.
Have you
I
always liked
so
black coffee?
no. Here's what I did. So I didn't originally I started out with tea. So I started out with tea, made it sweetened, and then I because like I didn't want to like add too much extra sugar to my diet. So then I removed the sugar. So it was like I think it was honey. I went from like crystal sugar to then honey and then to nothing. And then I started drinking like six cup of tea every day. And then I was like, well, if I'm drinking this much tea, why don't I just drink coffee? And so then I started out with coffee with I think it was creamer in it, and then it went to almond milk, and then it went to black coffee. So now I drink about 2 or 3 cups of black coffee a day. One, because I like the caffeine, and two, because I like coffee.
Mm. So, are
And
you particular about how your cup of coffee is made?
no, I'll if like the other day I went into work and my new coworker Dean was like, hey, do you want to I had a cup of coffee that I made at home, and she was like, hey, do you want this extra like venti Starbucks coffee that had cream in it, basically iced coffee? And I was like, sure. So then I shelved my other cup, and then I drank the one with the creamer in it just because it was more of a treat.
I see.
And then I drank the other coffee later on. So
Okay. So, what did you make yourself for lunch yesterday? What did you pack for lunch?
oh right, I think I told you this at the beginning. I didn't pack anything for lunch yesterday because I was I think, yeah, I was running a little late. But when I got there, my manager was going to go to Auntie Anne's, like the pretzel store, you know?
Oh, right,
And
right.
so,
How about the day before?
yeah,
What did you pack? What did you pack for your lunch?
I think I just packed some beans and rice,
Oh, okay, cool.
honestly. Hot sauce. Yeah.
All right, cool. Um, so can you give me an example of a problem that you've had to solve in recent memory?
Well, there is a problem that I will be solving. I got some paint, and so I got some clear coat and some paint for my car, because I accidentally bumped into my brother's car. His is fine, but I got a little dent and like some paint scratches. So I will be working on that. But as far as recent memory is concerned, oh, right. Yeah, this morning I was working on reformatting my workout log info stuff. So I basically made it so that I could split up my workouts, which were a bit too long, and I wasn't able to actually complete them fully, like every day, because of my new work schedule. So I basically broke them up and I made a new format to be able to like do that easier in the future, if that makes sense.
Okay. Um, Let me try this. I'm gonna give you a long sentence, and I want you to make it short. Okay.
Hmm.
If you'd like to become a crab fisherman, either because you're really into things that can pinch you, or because you're remarkably resilient when it comes to seasickness and motion sickness in general, or even if it's just because you like to be at open sea and smell the salt air. Regardless of your reason, if you want to become a fisherman, you should engender to practice at home in your bathtub with make believe crabs.
Yeah. So if you want to become a fisherman and you don't mind being pinched by crabs or the salty air, or by being resilient to seasickness, then you should sit in your bathtub and pretend to be on a boat with, were there toys in there towards the end?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. With practice toys in order to get a good feel of what it's like.
Okay. Interesting. That wasn't much shorter.
Oh, no. Sorry.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
mean, you said,
That's fine. I'm just that's interesting. So let's play. Well, that's why they always say muggity muggity meow. So in this game, I'm going to tell you an anecdote, and you're going to tell me the moral of the story. As per, if I were to
okay.
say, here's an example. If I were to say, I bought this book because the picture on the cover is so exciting, but the actual words inside are super boring, you'd say, well, that's why they always say, don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, so here's my story. Um, I went to the horse races, and the last time I had gone, I won a lot of money when I bet on horse number 4. So I bet on horse number 4 again this time, but I lost.
Is I know that's akin to don't put all your eggs in one basket, but there's probably something a bit older that is inclined to don't bet everything on one horse or something.
Okay. And let me try one more of these things before I tell you what I think you are.
Okay.
Um, when Barbara and I went out to eat, I warned her, don't get the raw oysters Those will make you sick. And she didn't listen to me. And she ate a whole bunch of them. She ate like 3 dozen of them. And then on the way home, she's like, pull over, pull over. And I pulled over and she got it and she puked her guts out.
Oysters. I don't know. Is this technically like an idiom test?
Sort of, yeah. But I mean, you can make up your own idiom if you want. You don't have to do one that's an official idiom.
Okay. Listen to the man who knows more about oysters than you do. Or about.
Okay, well,
or,
that's point. You can also say everything in moderation since she ate 3 dozen of them.
Oh, 3 dozen oysters. Yeah, that would do it. So.
Okay. Can you imitate a raccoon eating a pineapple with just your body language and without any words?
It would just be like.
No, they use their little hands a lot. They use their little hands a lot.
I would assume that's what that would be like.
Probably that's what it would be like.
Okay.
Okay. So, I don't know if I can't remember the last time if I ever have any, in fact, told somebody this, but I think you're an ESFJ.
An ESFJ?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And I don't think you think you're an ESFJ.
Yes.
Okay, so what do you think you are?
I thought either ESTJ or there was ESTJ, ESFP, maybe ESTP or ENTJ, I thought.
Okay, well, the thing is, you've got a lot of what appears to be a lot of FE going on. And additionally, while you do seem to be pretty good at problem solving, you don't seem to have a very conscious understanding of what TE is, which suggests that it's, with the kind of things that in your relationship with it abstractly would be more akin to 7 or 8 than to 1. But you're also not polar TE. You're not polar TI. That eliminates ESFP. You're not TI tool. Okay. That eliminates ESTP. So it's conceivable that you could be an ENTJ or an ESTJ, except I just don't see you as well. I mean, you do a lot of organizational stuff, but if you were an ENTJ, you would have a much different relationship with your introverted sensing than you do. ESTJ is not impossible, except okay, well,
because if I can provide a caveat,
it's the same polar.
So yeah, so for the original test when I took it, like the Myers-Briggs official test, I did get ESTJ, but that was during high school, and my brother got ISFP, and his fiance now got INFJ. And as far as I can tell from my personal diagnosis of their characteristics, those two were accurate. So as far as like a majority type of thing goes, I would assume, but I'm not like ruling it out as far as like conclusive.
Okay, like that's a very NI-polar way of expressing that whole thing. And it's also very FE rather than TE because you're concerned about the majority there. But
well, that's a majority of
people being tested by the test, right?
Well, no, I was talking about the test itself. Because again, like individuals can be rather fickle, as you know, with the planet ENTP guy, you know. I mean, I'm not going to bring that up. Sorry about
Oh,
that. And it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
sore
Okay, go
topic.
ahead. I know who you're talking
But
about.
yeah. So because like my brother's fiance, who's an FE user, so FE tool user, I see, and even I work within somebody who I typed as an ENFJ. They're so apt to throw away their own personal consistencies with logic to appease other people, to the point where she will write receipts for other people saying like, okay, since you bought this one niche item, since we have a buy one get one 50% off on niche, here, just bring me this receipt back and I'll make sure to get you the 50% next time. And I'm like, we can't do that. You have to, it's a one-time thing. You have to like buy it together to get the 50% off. You can't just like bring the receipt back. And like for my brother's fiance, her tool FE, is she'll usually be in this like NI mental soup state. And then she'll be like not concerned about how she's reacting to things like an FI user would, but she's concerned about the disservice that other people are having to go through. Like she'll take on their concerns as her own. And I'm like, these aren't your concerns. These it's not that they would affect her necessarily, but it's like she's like, an example would be when she was in California and she's like saying like, oh yeah, there's all these, she's talking about how she's trying to get like an Uber ride somewhere. And she's like, it was so expensive. And the guy I was riding with, the Uber guy, he was saying like, yeah, we had to go on strike because of the low wages. And then she would like, as the inferior, start like smacking the table. It's like, but they have like no right to get the bad, like these awful wages. And I was like, you're taking on these extra personal, I think that's what it'd be called, like external to the individual personal issues onto yourself, and they aren't your own. It's not a personal offense, it's an offense of other people that you are observing and you are bringing it onto yourself. And
Okay, so what do you think is more important to you? The the opportunity to be the originator of ideas, the opportunity to tell your story, or do you think it's more important to you that you I guess it's the same in either case. God damn it, that's not going to help. Never mind. Well, what's like? How much do you value telling your own story?
I have my own personal blog, and when I was going through a rough spot, I wrote a poem epic kind of thing on there. It's it's called The Dark Horizon, and it's about like the surmounting of obstacles, but in a more metaphorical sense. So like this guy, so like there's this child who's on a mountain, and there are these like souls at the base of the mountain huddle around these fires, and on the top of the mountain there's this uh, lightened being, and the whole process is of the child going, surmounting, like summiting the mountain, but going past the carcasses of those who had attempted, but then their souls left their body and joined the masses below. And it's about this child going up the mountain and still having like frostbitten hands, and like his body slowly succumbing to hypothermia until he reaches the top. But as he's ascending, his spirit is basically like starting to produce light energy and warmth to the point where his body is then fighting his spirit as he's like almost at the summit, to then where it gives up and the body separates from the spirit in the trough of snow that that the boy had to climb through, and then he became this enlightened spiritual being, basically. And so,
By
and
by
so I wrote that.
by getting rid of his body or by getting rid of his spirit?
No, the child was a spirit. It's his body that gave up, basically.
Okay. All right.
Sorry
And
if that was a little
and did you
deep.
feel as though what you were saying there is that you had to give up sort of concrete experience of something in order to understand the nature of it or something like that, or what? What's the allegory there?
The allegory was that to push through, even if your physical being didn't want to do the thing anymore. It's like to keep going, even like through the power of your own, like the self will, I guess. Even if your body was like shutting down, basically. It's that.
How do you convey to another person that they're important to you?
I will either tell them or I will. Okay, here. So I usually try to schedule time like with my grandma because she's like she's my last living grandparent. So I will schedule times with her to go get coffee just to like spend time with her. And I actually taught her how to play chess too
Okay.
because there's a chessboard at the coffee shop and we've been doing that a little bit. But I actually need to get back on it because of work because it's been a little roughshod recently.
Okay. So I think you are an ESFJ, and
Okay.
uh, it's it's kind of a tricky type to definitively give you, as super solid reasons as I can for other things, maybe as to
Mhm.
why you're definitely ESFJ and definitely not ESTJ. But the the approach you take towards towards other people and making them feel important is very much an FE approach rather than a TE approach. And across the board, it seems like your TE is strong but unconscious, which is typical for eighth slot. So you do have excellent TE. It's very functionally effective, but it's also effective for who you are rather than against some independent standard, really. Like, for me, SE is abundant. Obviously, I've got over 6,000 videos published, but it doesn't really, it's not very attentive to actual impacts. So if I really wanted to create concrete impacts more in the frame of SE in its naturally occurring state, then I would not have so many videos and I'd have a lot more subscribers.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, getting shit done is not really a problem for me. So that's what eighth slot is, and that's how your TE is. So you do solve problems when they arise, and you try to solve them yourself because when you can, because or you evaluate. It's like that's the best answer. You evaluate it. Do I need to ask somebody or not? Right? That's eighth slot TE. Whereas me, I will try to solve it myself without asking anybody, and like seventh slot will always ask somebody and never try to solve it themselves. Or if they do try to
Okay.
solve it themselves, they'll just try random shit. They won't try to solve it themselves. They'll just push random buttons
Yeah. Yeah.
until something happens.
So is that like an overly SE approach to an NE problem?
well,
Would be like that?
it's what I'm thinking of particularly is Rachel and INFJ, who won't bother me if she can get something accomplished. And if it's not until I independently notice how she's doing it that I realize, oh my god, have you been doing it this incredibly dumb way this whole time? Like with the
Like
spaghetti,
bipolar.
she's been making spaghetti for a while. We have a pot that's got one of those spaghetti things you
Yeah.
put inside of it to strain the
Straightening.
spaghetti.
Yeah.
She's been
Yeah.
taking that out boiling the pasta in the pot and then pouring it through that strainer rather than just leaving it in there.
Oh, okay. I mean, here's the thing though. If it was plastic, you probably wouldn't want to boil it. But if it's metallic,
No,
then
it's
yeah,
metal.
that
It's
makes
part of the
sense.
pot. They're all the same, made out of the
Okay.
same metal. But she's not understood that you're supposed to leave it in there. You're supposed to leave it in
Oh,
there. You know, it's made for that
okay.
purpose. So it's got its own
Yeah.
handle, so you can pull it out separately, and it drains out all the pasta, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's been taking it
Okay.
out. So I saw her do that one day, and I was like, okay, Rachel, you're supposed to leave that in there. That way you don't have to deal with pouring it and burning steam and all that shit, you know?
Yeah, in your face. Yeah.
Yeah.
And would that explain why I get along with my brother's fiance, who's an INFJ, and I'm also best friends with an ENTP because of that?
Well, I mean, ESFJs and ENTPs are great friends because they are activity partners. ESFJs
Mhm.
and ENTPs like to do things together. They both get kind of a SI satisfaction from accumulating experience. They both get FE satisfaction because the ESFJ is playing the role of the FE Dom, and the NE Dom is providing a lot of new NE. It's a relationship where the two parties work well together, doing stuff together.
Mhm.
So it's a great. It makes perfect sense that you'd be best friends with an ENTP, and ENTPs also being NI ignoring aren't going to notice when the ESFJ isn't really picking up on the NI shit. It took me years to I never did figure out until after we were divorced, like why I kept having these round and round and round conversations with my ex-wife because she was an ESFJ, you know. But and as far as being friends with the INFJ, that makes sense because you're both validating on FE grounds. Like it's your operational value, the other party, if you're an INFJ, and then you're going to validate on that grounds because you're doing enough FE. But actually, the interesting thing is when you describe the NI soup, you see the SI as concrete and real, and the NI as kind of um,
Ethereal soup.
yeah, an ethereal soup. The thing is, I would not actually expect necessarily an INFJ to well, yeah, they could. I certainly would maybe take on that kind of like I'm mad on behalf of these people, and it's only because she only heard one half of the story, though. You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
that's the other issue. It's like they're not very practical INFJs. They don't consider the practicalities of things in terms of like, well, how much time, effort, and resources is Mia going to take? But they do consider their their position in terms of like whether or not they can say something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So I guess that's my typing of you is ESFJ, and I do believe this makes you the first ESFJ I've ever typed
Nice.
because I've always said if there's one type that's very unlikely to be into typology, it's ESFJ.
Why is that?
Well, because it's telling you fundamentally here's an NI pattern that you're an example of. And as an SI tool user, ESTJs and ESFJs both understand the world as individuals having their own experiences. And um, it's it it's well it's there's a lot of typology is predicated on that soup, that ethereal soup. So that's why it's not likely for NI polar to be into typology, but it does happen occasionally.
Okay. Is the is as far as the individual experience is concerned, is that like a because I know people are it's not like they have a lack of free choice, but I see like the same recurring people just like over and over and over again. Because like I mean you'll have like two. I was talking about how I was talking. Okay, so I was talking with an INTP the other day on Discord, and I was like, he was saying like how an ENFP now would be different than like any ENFP that was born 20 or 30 years ago, and I was saying like no, they have the same hardware, like the functions. It's just the input of the information that the functions use would be different. Because like I see like Robin Williams, right? ENFP,
Mm-hmm.
pretty easy to tell.
Yeah.
And then my dad is a much more reserved ENFP, but I get glimpses of that Robin Williams energy that's just itching to be released. Because he's a parent and he's doing very much for his extroverted thinking tertiary function, trying to be the parent, provide financial support. But like I see glimpses of this like Robin Williams level energy that like oozes from my dad from time to time, and I know that that's his true self. But something keeps holding him back,
Well,
and I'm trying to figure out
ENFPs
like.
have a rough go of it because
Mhm.
for an ENTP, we have on our side being correct. And ENFPs don't have that on their side. They have on their side keeping in mind what's important. And that's always a personal matter. So as long as they're dealing with, like you're talking about, being a good parent and caring for what they care about, they're fine. But as soon as they start extroverting very much, which is their nature, being extroverted intuitors, they run afoul of people like me saying, that's stupid, you're being dumb, you're being illogical, or we can't compromise on this sort of thing. You have to be a person of principle and character. I see ENFPs as chronic compromisers. They're always trying to split every baby in half. But the thing is, some babies are actually babies and you can't cut them in half.
Exactly. I don't know what that means, but sure.
Well, I mean, it's like, look, in general, if you're in an FI frame of reference, you're understanding the world through compromise. You're saying, I want what's important to me. Other people want what's important to them. We all can't get everything that we want, so we're gonna compromise so that everybody gets part of what they want. Whereas if you're TI, you say, no, we determine who's right and they win, and who's wrong loses.
Okay. All
So
right.
that's
Because
the difference.
I would have attributed FE to the first part, just from my personal understanding, but I relate more to the second part as far as like how that's
Yeah, well, see, FE is about being a
about.
team player. Being a team player is not about compromising. It's about adhering to the rules of the team. So the rules of the team are um, the reason you're not entitled to half of my hot dog is because I bought it and you didn't. It doesn't matter that we're both hungry. You're stealing half my hot dog. That's an
Okay.
FETETI thing, saying you're not adhering to the rules of being a good team player. We each have to buy our own hot dog to be a good team player. FI
Okay.
says, but they're hungry. So let's just you should give them half your hot dog. Well, buy their own fucking hot dog, but they're poor. That's not my problem, right? TI says that's not my problem. FE says that is a problem, and if we approach this differently, maybe you can have half my hot dog, but you know, FE's like,
It's like here, like if you want half of my hot dog and you're not able to purchase a whole one, then give me the monetary compensation enough that equals half of the hot dog.
or ask really nicely in a way that makes me go, be somebody that I know, and be like, hey, do you think I could have a couple bites of your hot dog? 'Cause I forgot my wallet at home and I'm starving, and and then maybe you'll give me a
Okay.
couple bites of your hot dog, right? But if somebody's telling you, he's hungry and you're over here gorging on this hot dog, why don't you at least give him half of it? That's a very FI thing.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to stop this recording. Any last comments, complaints, questions, queries, conundrums? etc. Before I do?
Mm. Oh, could you tell me how SI polar manifests? I'm
Yeah,
interested in that.
yeah. SI polar manifests as literally not being able to consistently provide any specific details really about stuff that happened that are not needed to get the takeaway from the experience. So it's a discounting of personal experience. Like an ENFJ who won the show alone won it by not by having good TE, especially he had a shitty shelter, but by just having incredibly bad SI and being okay with being cold and uncomfortable and starving all the time and just not noticing it, you know. Whereas people who have SI in the front stack, depending on where it is, either think, no, that's way too important, I'd have to deal with that stuff, or think, oh my god, I would just immediately crack like me. Like my 4 slot SI couldn't stand any prolonged discomfort of any sort.
So, would what would be the thing of trying? Okay, I'm just gonna ask this real quick. I'm not like
Take your time.
discrediting your analysis or
No, yeah,
anything.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead. Discredit all you want.
okay. But so I have in the past done. So you know of like the Wim Hof method and cold showers, right?
No, I don't know what that is. What's the Wim Hof method?
It's so there's this dude. I do have the book, and it's
Please tell me
okay.
you're
I
not
don't think it's
retaining
here.
your semen.
Now that's a topic for another day. But basically, how this works is so there's this slightly deranged man in the Netherlands or Poland, and he goes. I say deranged for comedic effect, but I respect him quite a bit. He goes and like swims in Arctic level freezing waters, basically, and he does like contrast, uh, not showers, but it's like he'll be in his hot tub, right, chill out for a little bit.
Stark thermo contrast.
Yeah, and yeah, he'll be in the hot tub, and he'll go swim in like the freezing cold water, do meditation stuff, come back, sit in the hot tub, and it's basically like a way to dilate and contract the blood vessels, so it like improves circulation. And I was really into that for a long time, and I would be like, so this one week, this has happened several times, at least 3, where I'd be like, okay, I'm going to do cold showers for a week, and then like I'd be on the 6th day, and I'd be like, I'd hear a voice being like, you should probably chill out and like not do that because you might get sick. And I was like, it's one more day, I'll be fine. And then the next day I'll get sick, and then I'll be out for 2 weeks. And that was even less productive than just taking a break for one day.
That's
And
interesting.
I even wrote a Reddit post about saying like, I'm trying these on like r/cold shower. And I would be like, my bones ache. And I was even sleeping on the floor at the time. I had a perfectly good bed right here. Like that's right here. But I was like, no, I'm going to sleep on the floor just so I can develop myself, question mark. And I slept, and then I remember for Christmas I got myself a Shiki Buton, which is a 3-inch Japanese futon mattress. And I remember climbing in one day and just like hysterically like laughing to myself because like, oh, it feels like a bed, because I was literally sleeping on a sheet on the floor. And that was when I was doing the cold showers every day, and I wrote the Reddit post basically saying my bones ache and I'm tired. So
Right. Well, I mean, all that sounds like SI tool stuff to me. The fact that
okay,
you're thinking that there's some metaphysical thing to be gained by doing all this weird stuff with your body and how you sleep and how you, it's like that's not gonna work. You know what you should
okay,
do is if you want to improve your circulation, you need to take up smoking.
oh okay,
Yeah, a lot of people think it hurts your circulatory processes, but I've not found that to be the case.
okay. I mean, I did at one point. I found a pack of Marlboro Reds on the ground, and I was like, I've been too uptight recently. I need to try and relax. And so what I did was I smoked three and a half in less than half an hour.
Oh, you're gonna make yourself
And
puke doing that.
yeah, I did. Well, I didn't do that, but I basically fell over. And my ENTP friend brought me in, and he basically like threw me on a makeshift couch thing, to where I was just there for like two
Yeah,
hours.
yeah, like nicotine poisoning. You can't. You got to work up to that. You can't just start smoking right like that.
You know, if I did get into it like long term, I'd probably do cigars or cigarillos.
Yeah,
That
smoking is
sounds
not
fun.
actually a good thing to take up. I'm not actually suggesting you start smoking.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
I'm just saying.
Smoking is expensive, is what it is, and it's the only thing
Yeah.
I've ever really been addicted to. Despite being an addictive personality, the only thing I've ever genuinely been addicted to is cigarettes. Like
Okay.
I cannot stop smoking without experiencing significant trauma, ontological trauma, for too long. You know,
Okay.
I gotta have some nicotine periodically. You know, nobody really needs to be addicted to nicotine, so it's a good idea to not start smoking. But it's also the case that not everybody's super addictive. You know, my daughter started vaping nicotine a while back, and then she stopped for a long period of time, and then she started again and stopped, and so
Yeah.
you know, and she doesn't even abuse her Adderall. She barely
Okay.
takes it. It's like I don't know how I could have had such a non-addictive child, but I did. Anyway, yeah, that all sounds consistent to me with SI tool. And you didn't persist in it long term because at some point you determined that well, what happened there in that last moment is you had two SI things conflicting: your plan and your body
Mhm.
telling you something. And
Yeah.
you're effective at SI, so you can hear when your body's telling you things. But you chose to follow through on your plan rather than to listen to your body. And I mean that's my takeaway on that is that you had SI tool pulling you in different directions at the same time. Because following through on what your plan is, that's sort of your six slot demonstrative thing that that is necessitated by if you want to keep track of things well, like what you're going to do, then you have to actually do it once you've kept track of it adequately. You know.
Yeah.
So okay, cool. Um, so I'm going to stop this recording now. Are you comfortable with me publishing, or do you want me to share it with you privately?
You can publish it. So if I ever question myself again, I can always watch it.
All right, and this will be exciting because I'm really excited to see what people say about this typing, since I don't think I've ever typed any SFJ before.
Nice.